where we stopped, and that was we were on the topic aggregate demand and supply model. So we are going to see the relationship between aggregate demand and price level and the aggregate supply and price level. And then this is another way of presenting output market equilibrium. So we look at the, already we did this part, aggregate demand and price, the relationship between the two, and there is an inverse relationship. So we discuss 3 reasons for the inverse relationship: real balance effect, interest rate effect, and net export effect. Today, we are going to look at a schedule shows how supply of output changes at different prices. Now again, the microeconomic analysis cannot be applied here too. We know the supply and price relationship in microeconomic because we are dealing with one product there, but here the entire goods and services produced in the economy. In microeconomics, we are looking at the price of one product, but here we are looking at the average price of all the goods and services. So because of this reason, the microeconomic analysis does not apply here in order to derive an upward sloping AS line. The reasons are given here: changes in price level, changes in price level affect both outputs and inputs. So that means if you are looking at the price of bread, when the bread prices go up, it is an incentive for the producers to produce more bread. But it doesn't matter here, it doesn't apply here, because when we look at the average price level, we have to take into account not only the bread price, but also the wheat flour and other ingredients and electricity cost, water cost, labor cost, wages and salaries, all these things into account. So not only the output, but also the inputs, the prices of all these things go up, which means the net outcome is not conclusive. That's why microeconomic rules don't apply here. The second, flexibility or stickiness of prices and wages. This is another issue that we need to take into account. And also with respect to, even if we assume they are flexible, we have to decide whether they are flexible or sticky, flexible or rigid. After we decide that one, even if they are flexible, then there is a time lag, which we need to take into account. Therefore, these two factors also affect our determination of the aggregate supply scale. In fact, these ideas come from the distinction between the Keynesian and classical schools of economics. So they had this price-wage flexibility, differences in between the two schools regarding price-wage flexibility and under different assumptions. So we are going to look at those differences now. Keynesian and classical controversy. We mentioned a couple of things about this controversy at the beginning of our macroeconomic lectures. So they continue to be in conflict with each other because of their underlying assumptions. And because of those assumptions, the analysis and the conclusions that they arrive at. Assumptions in the Keynesian view, money wages are sticky in the short run. That means money wages do not change in the short run. Second assumption, unemployment exists at equilibrium. Therefore, as a result, aggregate supply curve is upward sloping below full employment output level. If the country has not achieved full employment output level, then actually we will have an upward sloping a supply schedule. That's what it means. Classical view, on the other hand, prices and wages flexible in the long run. Remember these two things also when we look at them. They are talking about short run and classicals are talking about long run. So prices and wages are flexible. There is equilibrium in the economy, and at that equilibrium, natural output and employment is at equilibrium level. So, which means actually full employment and maximum output level, these two things exist at equilibrium. It can be different from the full employment output level, but all those differences are temporary. All those differences are temporary. That's why they assume long run. Long run, those temporary things would disappear and the economy come to the long run equilibrium where there is equilibrium. No unemployed. No below the output level, below the productive capacity. Because of this assumption, aggregate supply curve is vertical, according to classical view. According to Keynesian, it is upward sloping. So we will look at these assumptions in detail and how they are connected to our model. Keynesian A schedule, first we take. The assumption is two assumptions I mentioned. One is prices and wages are sticky in the short run. The second one is there is equilibrium even when there is unemployment. Upward stickiness. So sticky means rigid. They cannot move upward or down. Prices and wages do not move upward or down. So let's look at first the upward stickiness. There are idling resources and unemployed labor below full employment output level. If the output level of the country is below the full employment level, even at equilibrium, you remember equilibrium means this part, output market equilibrium. Even at that level, there is what? There is unemployed resources. Unemployed resources. Which means the producers can hire labor at the ongoing wage rate. And even if they increase their demand for labor, the producers, it will have no pressure on the wages in the economy. Why not pressure? Because at equilibrium, there may be unemployment. Why the downward stickiness? downward stickiness. Now, upward stickiness actually it is because we all understand in the short run means our payments, our salaries, monthly salaries, that is specified in our appointment letter. So there is a contract that we have entered into when we get a job. And according to the contract, our salaries are fixed. So, for example, look at last year, we had about 50% inflation in this country. So, which means the real value of our incomes got affected and it has been reduced by at least 50%. I know that when we go to the market, depending on what kind of goods and services we consume, we have to consume, it is much more than 50%. Somebody who earns 100,000 rupees a month, now his real income is gone down to 50,000 at least, if not below 50,000. But our income does not get adjusted immediately. Okay, that's why most of the people are now in trouble. Incomes don't get adjusted to that 50% inflation that we experienced last. Upward stickiness of wages. Wages are downward sticky too. They don't go down. What is the reason? There are three parties involved in this case. One is trade union, another one is the government, and the other one is the employers themselves. Trade unions don't allow wages to go down. Government also prevented that by setting minimum wage regulation. What about the firms, employers? Don't they like to reduce the wages? They do like to reduce the wages, but the issue is that actually they are also paying you higher wages. Higher wages. They might be paying lower wages to lower level employees because they can be quickly hired or fired. And even if people leave, they can hire very quickly and put them into work. But professionals and skilled labor, it's difficult to hire them and put them into work immediately because the employers themselves, the firms, have also invested in bringing these skilled labor to that level. So, for the purpose of retaining that labor, they provide higher wages, higher, that means above the market. Yes, if you are skilled, professional, and if your employers thinks that it is a cost that if they are going to lose you, they will give you higher wages, higher than the market. It's a cost for the firms to keep hiring all the time professional workers or skilled labor. It's a cost. So, in order to avoid that cost coming out of interruptions to the production process, in fact, the firms also pay higher wages to higher level professionals and skilled labor. So these three institutions, trade unions, government, and employers, they have set the standard so that the wages and salaries do not go down. So the contracts that you have entered, they also prevent your wages going down. Wages usually become frozen in recessions. Now in Sri Lanka, wages are frozen. That means wages do not go up. And it remained constant, allowing producers to draw more labor at prevailing wage rate. So now the economy is recovering, but still wages have not yet gone up. It's an incentive for the workers, for the employees to hire people at prevailing wage rate. Keynesian A schedule. Therefore, under this assumption, when there is an increase in aggregate demand, we know aggregate demand would rise due to government policies, fiscal low monetary expansion lead to aggregate demand, high aggregate demand. And when the aggregate demand goes up, price level rises. When the price level goes up, you can see the real wage, WOP, the value of the real wage, should fall now because the numerator is going up. It is an incentive to the producer. Incentive to the producers because the real value of the they have been paid, real wages that the companies pay has gone down. So incentive to the producers to hire more labor, expand production so that the output should rise. So that's why until the economy reach full employment output level, demand management policies that are recommended by Keynesian become effective in accelerating economic growth. So this graph shows you, well, when you look at the graphs, actually those are looks very simple, but there are big stories behind, for example, this one. This is KAS, Keynesian Aggregate Supply Curve. At full employment output level, it is vertical. But below that output level, it is upward sloping. We have aggregate demand, so that equilibrium point is at A. If there is an increase in aggregate demand, we shift the aggregate demand to the right. For example, we took here fiscal expansion. You can see it is G0 here, but G1 here. Increase in aggregate demand. What would be the outcome here in the market, output market? There will be higher output level and higher price level. Price level has gone up. You can see it here. And output level has gone up too. Until the economy reach full employment output level, that is here. demand management policies, that means either increase in demand or control in demand, those things are important to maintain full employment output in ECNB. But of course, the extreme end Keynesian view is having vertical, no horizontal ace line. We have seen that earlier. So there is no impact at all on the price. But this is little above that upward sloping demand line. Classical argument. Classical argument is, in the long run, there is full employment output level. Any temporary movements are temporary, according to classical. So they are looking at what should be the normal long run outcome. When the economy operates at its full employment output level in the long run, that means there are no idling resources. There are no idling resources. That means there is no unemployed labor or unemployed other resources. If we guarantee laissez-faire policy, that means free market policy, then we have full employment. In that sense, prices and wages are flexible. When there is a change in the price level or cost of production, we know now, according to Keynesian view, real wage level goes down. So that is an incentive for the producers to produce more. But in this case, classical case, they are looking at when there is a change in the price and cost of production. Change in the price level and cost of production. Real wages will also be automatically adjusted to the original level. That means when there is inflation, to compensate for that, nominal wages should go up. Last year, we had 50% inflation, so that in classical view, our salaries, our incomes should go up by 50%. So why not it happen? Because we are talking about long run. But in the long run, it will happen. Now, for example, if you imagine the salary that you got when you get your job, if it was 10 years ago, today if somebody joined the same job with same qualification at that level, of course the salary would be much higher. Salary would be much higher. Because there is long run adjustment process also. So what the classicals are saying, we can't throw it away. They are also saying the same thing. But the Keynesians are saying what they are saying. We cannot throw it away either, because they are talking about short run and classicals are talking about long. But it does not actually settle their dispute, because there are deeper analysis that you need to carry out in order to see how they continue to be different from each other. Okay, we are not going that far with this analysis because our purpose is different. Okay, so the prices and wages are flexible in the long run. So any increase in output as a result of increase in aggregate demand. So you remember that part, aggregate demand goes up. In Keynesian view, now output should respond. Classicals don't deny that, but they assume that it is a temporary phenomenon. Any deviation from the natural output level in the economy is a temporary. Because after some time, the price level start responding to whatever those things that happen. For example, I have given here, you can see where is the cursor? Okay, it is here. This one, you can see it here. Original wage rate is W naught. Price level is P naught. So real wage is W naught over P naught. But the price level went up to P1. You can see it here. Nominal wages did not change. What happened now? New real wage level is lower than the previous. But this is a short run phenomenon. This does not going to be a long run outcome of an increase in aggregate demand. That's what the classical, because they say anything that happen, it can be temporary. So which means now in the long run, the nominal wages should rise, because if this one has gone up, this one should, price P1 should rise in order to, the nominal wages should rise. Nominal wages should also rise in order to restore the initial equilibrium level. So after the increase in nominal wages, in order to trade off price increases, now it is equal to initial real wage level. Initial real wage level. So ideally, somebody who gets higher salary now when they enter the job, higher than the salary that you got about 10 years ago when you entered the job, it doesn't matter, because when the inflation comes, they need to adjust, well, wages to match with that. And when that adjustment takes place, of course, your original real wage level that you got, which is W naught or P naught, it is equal to new real wage level. New real wage level. Therefore, these things do not remain without an alteration according to new circumstance. And proportionate increase in cost of production can restore again the full employment output level. Let's look at that also. So the classical AS schedule or the AS line, it is vertical like this. GAS, classical aggregate supply line is this one. Any increase in output level above Yn is natural output level. It is going to be temporary. Why it is temporary? After a time lag, P start rising. In response to increased aggregate demand. When the price level goes up, obviously output falls back to its natural level. That means demand management policies are not effective, which means actually they cannot produce anything in the real economy. They only result in fiscal low monetary policies will only result in monetary value changes, not the real values. Let's look at the case here. So you got aggregate demand, government spending is G naught, you increase government spending, so the aggregate demand goes up. So in the long run, don't forget that we move from point A to point B. Now this increase of output level, that's what the initial Keynesian understanding, going even beyond Keynes. You can see price, the output has increased from Y0, Yn to Y1 under the ongoing price level E0, E0. But over time, price level starts because nominal wages, the real wages have to be settled. When the price level starts rising, output falls back to its normal, its natural level. That means Keynesian prescribed those demand management policies are not effective. Okay, give me a minute. I have seen this diagram earlier because when we look at horizontal S curve and vertical S curve, and in between there are upward sloping S curves also, we already saw it according to Keynesian view. So which means now we are going to try to show here, depending on the time period, the slope of the S curve will increase. For example, if it is in the short run. Of course, this horizontal S curve, but if it is in the long run, a little bit longer, so you will have a little steeper S curve, which means now the increase in aggregate demand, the red line, you will see the increase in output level here, it will be lower and the price goes up. If you look at it after some more time, S curve will be steeper than that. And the increase in output has fallen back because the price level is going up. So the S curve, the shape, the slope is rising until it comes to those vertical levels as classicals assume. That is the long run. Long run. What has happened to the output level? It has fallen back to the same point yn or y0 in this case. But the price level has gone up. Now, we discuss about various shapes of the AS curve, unlike the AD curve. So that sometimes in some textbooks you may find this kind of AS curve also. This kind of AS curve. So until it comes to this level, you can see it is called Keynesian rate. And above this level, it is called classical range. But in between, you can see there is intermediate range also. The same idea that we talk about, right? So AS curve is, you can't say its shape unless you know the wage price flexibility and the time lag. These are important points which determine the shape of the AS curve. Now I am going to take you through three kind of analysis. Technical analysis, 100% technical, because it gives you step-by-step understanding about what we talk about so far. So I also encourage you to take a piece of paper, notebook, and pen or a pencil to draw these diagrams together with me so that you can remember it later if you also do it by yourself, unless it will be difficult for you to remember each and everything we do here on the screen. So we are going to take three cases. With these three cases, we cover everything about the aggregate supply line. We are going to look at the impact of fiscal expansion. Okay, we are going to draw two graphs placed vertically, one after the other, ISLM. I hope you remember everybody one ISLM framework. ISLM framework, and then below that we will draw ADAs, the one that we study now. We are going to connect the two. In fact, of course, we started also this lesson by connecting the two, but we use the same understanding under three different assumptions to look at the effects of fiscal expansion. So if you have drawn the two graphs like this vertically, now we are going to look at, you can see adjustment to fiscal expansion under fixed prices and wages. So that is our assumption. Fixed prices and wages. Okay, so equilibrium is at point A. We have a schedule. A schedule, sorry, I schedule and LM schedule. The two lines represent the output market equilibrium and money market equilibrium. So the simultaneous equilibrium is at point A. I will draw first so that you can understand them better, which determine equilibrium interest rate here and equilibrium output level here. To have that equilibrium output level, we extend it all the way down here. And suppose that because of our assumption, what is the assumption? Fixed prices and wages. So that we should have an ACE curve like this, horizontal ACE curve. And if it is the equilibrium output level, our AD should go with this corresponding point A here. Okay, you can draw up to that point. So I'm going to clear this and show you how we arrived at. Yeah. So I hope we can explain this. Equilibrium output level is Y naught. Same Y naught is here on the second graph. Equilibrium interest rate is R naught. Price level in the economy is P naught. Government P naught is here too. You remember that part, okay? Because it is part of the determinants of money stock as well, real value of the money stock, real money balances. And then the wage rate in the economy, nominal wage rate, W naught. Which is a determinant of our aggregate supply line. And then we have our government spending, G naught. Okay, so everything is clear. Here we got IS and LM, so that is IS-LM framework. Here we got AD and AS, so that is AD-AS framework. Now, again, I will draw it. We are going to increase government spending, fiscal expense, so that we will have this line here, IS line, new IS. line. That is because we shift it to in this direction to show that there is an increase in the intercept. Because this is related to the intercept. You know that it is part of our autonomous components of aggregate demand, which determine the position of the IS line. So the new equilibrium point is created in the first graph. You can see it here. Interest rate has gone up and output has gone up because increase in aggregate demand give an stimulus to increase output level to this level. How do we show it on the second graph? We extend that line all the way down here. And you can see that this point, this is the equilibrium point in the first graph. So this is the equilibrium point on the second graph. So if you draw your AD to go through this point, and the shift in aggregate demand in the first graph and the second graph, both are the same. There is no change in price. Why? Because we have an assumption here. There is also no change in the wage level because there is that assumption cover that as well. So let's draw it with our graph. You can see it here, and it also shows you crowding out effect in addition to what we discussed, right? The conclusion under this assumption of fixed prices and wage. Increased government spending increases output. Where is output? Output is here. And output has gone up. Output has gone up in the first graph also to this extent. Why output rises? Because there is unemployment at equilibrium in Keynesian view. So this is consistent with the Keynesian idea. Let's change the assumption little bit, relax it little bit, because we have fixed prices and wages. We relax the fixed price assumption so that we have flexible price assumption. Okay, so you can take, if you have finished working with this one, take another paper and draw two graphs again. Two graphs. Like this. So up to this point, it is clear to you. Now we have a different assumption. What is our assumption? Sticky wages. What about prices? Prices are flexible. How do we make the difference here? We have to, if the prices are flexible, your aggregate supply curve should be upward slope, like this. So now, if you have finished that one, let's do our experiment. We increase government spending, fiscal expansion, so that we have a new output level at this point. We extend it all the way down to find out the exact increase in aggregate demand according. Where do we draw the uh, aggregate demand line? To this point. So it will be this one. So remember our equilibrium point, we started with this one, move to this point, and we shift the aggregate demand line there also in the second graph to this point. But the issue is now this is not the equilibrium point here. Where is that? Is here. That is the intersection point. So, which means now we need to have this out. You can see output level has gone down a little bit. We will explain why. In other words, the increase in output level is smaller than in the previous case. So we extend this line all the way up to this one. Why do we do that? Because you can see the price level has gone. When the price level goes up, you cannot keep price level like this here, E0. It's a reduction in the stock of money supply, so that there should be a new LM line which is shifted in the left direction. I am giving you some time to draw this kind of thing. So let me clear this one and then we will draw as the graph gives us the pre-prepared diagram. But anyway, it is clear to you now, I hope. So we increase government spending. You can see that E0 increased to E1. New equilibrium point is point B here. And point B we mark here and draw the aggregate demand function to that point. But our new equilibrium point is here at point C, where the aggregate supply line and aggregate demand line intersects. So the price level you can see has gone up now. Because of that, LM line shift in the left direction to show that there is a reduction in the stock of real money because the price level has gone up. You can see the price level, this is E0, but this is E1, higher price. Why higher price level? Because price level increase here in the output. Why the price level increase? Because of increased government spending And when the price level increases, real wage goes down because wages are sticky. Wages are sticky, therefore producers can produce more by hiring at the ongoing wage rate, which is W0. Interest rate is going up, price level is going up. So, what is our conclusion? Increase government spending under this assumption: sticky wages but flexible prices. Raise both output and price level. Output goes up because of the real wage falling issue. Why real wage falls? Because wages are sticky as there is unemployment. Even though economy is in equilibrium, Y equal AD, there is unemployed, pool of unemployed resources. So at the prevailing wage rate, the producers can hire more. There is an incentive for that. Real wage rate has gone down. Therefore, output increase can be made. Let's move on to the last diagram. What is the last one? Flexible prices and wages both. Flexible prices and wages both. So you can take another page and draw this one. I don't think we have to explain this one now because we are familiar with this. ISLM framework, the first graph, ADAS framework, the second graph. Let's increase this is actually similar to previous case, but only difference is that we have allowed wages to be flexible load. So that we will go up to that point. So remember what we did earlier. We did this one and we came to point C. This is where we stopped previous case. Now this is this is purely classical idea. According to classical idea, any increase in output level, you can see output level has gone up to this level. It is going to be temporary. Why they call it temporary? Because monetary policy, fiscal policy in classical view cannot influence the real sector of the economy, so that you cannot influence output by increasing government spending or by printing money. There will be temporary things that you can see, but in the long run, they will get adjusted. If you use monetary and fiscal policies, only the monetary variable, what are the monetary variables here? Only the monetary variables will respond. Interest rate is a monetary variable. Price level is a monetary variable. Wage also a monetary variable because it's a nominal. These things will change, but not the output level. No output level change. Classical idea, pure classical idea. So after we come to this point, what will happen is now, let me draw you if you are ready. This, because of this assumption, now we know that when we come to this point, price level has gone up. Nominal wages remain the same, W naught, so that the real wage, that is W over P, should have gone down now, real wage, which is temporary in classical view because real nominal wages should rise in order to restore the initial real wage. So this wage rate should go up. When the wage rate, nominal wage goes up, it is a disincentive for the producers because it is cost of production. Cost of production should go up. When the cost of production goes up, for example, I am going to go here. When the cost of production goes up, they reduce supply. And then the price goes up. Where is the price level? Price level is here. When the price level goes up, wage goes up again because cost of production responds to price increase. So this action reaction process, which what we call spiral effect. Spiral effects. The prices go up, cost of production goes up, and the price goes up, cost of production goes up. This continues. Continue and continue and continue. Ultimately, it comes to a standstill, it comes to whole when we reach where ultimate equilibrium point, according to our diagram, it is here at point D. So you can see price level has gone up, output level has come back to where it was. When the price level goes up to this level, money supply should reduce too. So you extend that line up to this point and money supply, because price level has gone to reduce too, which means now interest rate rises further. Wages rises, prices go up, interest rates go up, but nothing happens to the output level. Classical idea. So what is our conclusion then? Increased government spending only raises prices. Prices mean price of the commodities, price of money, and the price of labor. No change in output because real wages do not fall. Real wages remain the same. Right. I hope you got the point. Three cases, and which gives you step-by-step analysis, technical analysis, which will help you to look at the real world situation. Now, AD and As can be shifted like this. You can see monetary policy and fiscal policy measures as well as shocks, because we mentioned Policies and shocks are the two things that can affect our market. So aggregate demand will shift upward or downward like this. And AS can also be shifted. You can see this AS line, and it has moved to the right. And decline in production costs, technological progress, government intervention through reducing production taxes, providing production subsidies, liberalizing regulation can shift the supply schedule to the right. That means increase in the capacity to produce. Okay, so my last 2 points about inflation. There are two concepts coming from this analysis, macroeconomic analysis about inflation. One is called demand pull inflation. So whenever we say demand, we know that we are talking about aggregate demand. Any factor that will cause an increase in aggregate demand if it results in higher prices all the time, then we call it demand pull inflation. So for example, aggregate demand increases. So AD can now go up directly because of CIE index. When the aggregate demand rises, all these components will rise too. Why the aggregate demand rises? Because of increased government spending or because of more money is available. It's monetary expansion. Directly, people can purchase more, the public. Indirectly, interest rate now should go down, and interest rate is a determinant of aggregate demand, particularly I in our model is determined by the interest rate. So that in aggregate demand goes up because of the interest rate effect. Price level rises in response to these things. In response to these, demand pull inflation. Cost push inflation, the other one, cost push inflation. Cost push inflation means the cost of production increases so that the producers should lower the cost, the output. So in this case, not only output decline, but also again the prices decline, increases. So prices increases, that is inflation, cost push inflation with a reduction in prices. Why firms have to reduce the output? Because their cost of production has gone. Some examples are given here. Wage pressure. So trade unions asking more wages. Public sector employees asking more wages. Cost of raw material goes up. Electricity cost, water cost goes up. Transport cost goes up. Cost push inflation. Higher import costs, world market prices go up. Fuel prices go up. Exchange rate depreciation. We have seen it already, how exchange rate depreciation increase our price level. So all these things will result in cost push inflation. Yeah, that's all. In 2005, I mentioned this example yesterday, so that I should mention it again today also. 2005 to 2008, that is just before the US financial crisis. US financial crisis. The prices were going up in this here in the local market. We had higher inflation at that time, and it was debatable issue. The government side said that it is because of oil prices, world market food prices, because they were also going up. And then another fraction against the government said that no, it is because of government policy problem, increased spending, budget deficit. So the IMF carried out a study calculating what has caused inflation in Sri Lanka during this time. So the conclusion of that report was 75% of the price increases due to domestic policy factors and only 25% due to global factors. So domestic factors are actually demand pull inflationary factors. Global factors are cost push inflation. So that means demand pull inflation, cost push inflation. You can analyze them separately. There is a question why output should rise when there is unemployment. Yes, that is exactly the point. When there is unemployment, wages don't go up. Even if the prices go up, wages do not go up. And that means real wages should go down. When the real wages go down, according to the going nominal wage level, there is no wage pressure. The producers can hire more wages, more labor, and produce more because that's the Keynesian type of argument, which gives an incentive for the producers to produce more. That's why output goes up when there is unemployment. So, any other question? So, no questions. So, we stop here. And thank you for joining today, and we will meet again next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Right.